a human rights perspective. இலங்கை முஸ்லிம்களின் எதிர்காலம் ஒரு மனித உரிமை பார்வை நோக்கு. We have, of course, a highly engaged human rights activist, in fact, an international human rights activist, to speak on the topic. He is also the Secretary General of the Universal Human Rights Council based in Geneva, and he works closely with a number of human rights organizations and bodies associated with the United Nations. And he is also the clinical director at NHS, North Central London. He is none other than our beloved president of Maunal Association of Britain, Dr.FEROZ Mubarak.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulullah. My dear brothers, sisters, sons and daughters, unfortunately we had a technical problem which lasted for almost 40-45 minutes, so which means we are running about 40-45 minutes late. There are children who are hungry and who are just trying to get out of this venue just to go and have meals. So my 40-minute speech, I'm going to cut it down to 10 minutes, if you don't mind. Since everybody has been quite patient, I'm just going to go straight to the points I was going to raise right at the end. Before I go to the topic of the future of Sri Lankan Muslims, there are two things I just want to thank you for and also request. Number one is thank you for coming here in such a crowd and making the effort and the sacrifice to come here at this time. I know some families called us and said that their children are unwell, so they will not be able to come. So we do really appreciate your support. What we see here really let us run the organization for the next 1 year with so much appreciation and pride that we have your support. It's very important. And number two is the impact of what we do. For the last 12 years, we have delivered 95% of our work in Sri Lanka. But this AGM is going to be a step forward in terms of turning the pages around in making our next generation who live in this country to run this organization. This is why we saw our moderators today are from the next generation. And the reason is we want to inspire the little ones here, the next generations, to come forward and do what we do at the moment. Because we are setting precedent. There's a very important point Dr. Rais made, that we live by example for our children, and that's what we are doing here. On that note, I want to thank you for coming here and continuing your support. Please donate whatever you can for your brothers and sisters in Sri Lanka. Today, these days, you cannot get even a decent lunch from Tesco for £5. Okay? So, £10 a month, what we give, will feed or make ways for a family to be fed for months or years from a longer contribution over a period of time. This is very important because we stop by and drive through in McDonald's, we spend easily £30-40, and that's maybe once a month or whatever. That amount you'll actually pay to maybe to help our brothers and sisters for the next 1 year. So just a little note. Going back to my topic about the future of Sri Lankan Muslims in the perspective of human rights. Sorry, I'm going to continue this in English if you don't mind, because the majority of the audience are English speaking, all of us are English speaking. So I'm going to address my speech purely in English if you don't mind. So there was a long history I was going to bring in here as to what happened to Sri Lankan Muslims since 1889, and then all the way to the kind of a landmark incidents which happened in 1915, all the way to what happened in 2009, 2018, 2019 to where we are today. But we have no time for that. So I'm going to go straight to the point of why, as minorities in Sri Lanka, Muslims are going to be always susceptible for racial discrimination, religious discrimination, as well as economic discrimination. Namely, violence and burning down our homes and our businesses, to discriminating at our higher intellectual levels, the quota system for getting into university, for medicine or whatever, the restrictions we have getting into decent jobs at government levels. Of course, let alone we are becoming politicians, because you can't. If you do not get the votes, you cannot become a politician in power. So there are factors which we cannot change, but there are a lot of factors which we can change. I'm not talking about Muslims in Maunala. This is a wider question. Muslims in Sri Lanka, and then we can even extend it to the rest of the world, but just into Sri Lanka. So, from the perspective what I see as a human rights activist, and from what the OHCR, Office of Human Rights Council in Geneva see, there is a pattern to what's happening to Sri Lankan Muslims. The main income, so the main lifeline for the majority of Sri Lankan Muslims is business and work related to business, factories, production and things like that. But who is going to buy these things? If you're doing a business, you need to buy, you need to sell. Oh, yes, you need to trade. Who are you going to sell this to? It's not the Muslims. It's a part of it. So 80% of your product has to be sold to non-Muslims. So what that means is your customer has to be satisfied. That's why I'm sure all of you live in the UK, you know, without customer satisfaction, your business is zero. But how can you increase customer satisfaction? By making them happy with your product and your service. But if you're trying to sell product to a group of customers who already don't want your product, not because of their bad, not because of your service is bad, it's because of your Muslim. And it's a no-go. It's a non-starter. So on that basis, if we are to survive as a nation or as a group of nations whose main lifeline is business or trade, you are heading to a brick wall. And this is what's happening. This is what the plan used to be the ruling parties as well as the major powers and players in Sri Lanka. We're talking about Bodhibala Sena, Singharavya, all that kind of racist organizations. But do you know why they can do that? It's because that's where they can hit you to hurt hard. Because you had nothing else. You just had business because it came to you from your dad or your granddad. Right? So you could leave it and start something else, because if you start something else, it will be another business. So what we needed to do is to become economically independent. So if you are a community who is economically independent, what that means is my economy is not dependent on you. Then you can't hit me where it hurts hard, because I'm not dependent on you. How can we achieve it? So out of the 10.9% calculated percentage of Muslims in Sri Lanka, even though it's almost over 12%, but yeah, 10.9%. How can we move the 10.9% out of being dependent on the trade and the business and everything, what we all of our families in Sri Lanka do? We can't, it's impossible. We cannot shift all of them out of the traditions. But what we can do is to change the trend for the next generation and the next generation. And that can only be achieved by two things. Number one, make availability of resources that they can excel. Number two is to make way for it. So you make the facilities, the guidelines, the advice, the direction, the push, the support for them. You make it streamlined. There is a streamlined way of doing it, streamlined. So they don't come and hit a dead end and say, oh, this didn't work, and they give up and go back to do business. No, you streamline. The second thing is you make way for it. Both sounds the same. So why is it more important from a human rights perspective? So the human rights, so there are two things to human rights. Number one is what you call a fundamental right. The other one is the general human rights. So the fundamental right is a political term. Okay? So, for example, you all have heard the current debate of MMDA, Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act. So the MMDA is our fundamental right, whatever is currently in application. But it's also part of our human rights. But you can't say it's purely human rights, because a single lady, in that case, will turn around and say MMDA is my right. But it's not. So you know the difference. The fundamental right is more of a political version of specific qualifications and allowances and rights given to a group of people or the entire nation, which you can debate in the High Court and win because it's within the Constitution. Whereas human rights is everything to do with your rights. Okay? I'm not going to go into details here. So why is it more important that we streamline the pathway for our generation, next generation, to come out of this dependence, this economic dependence, is because that ensures our survival. It's very important. Out of everybody, this should make sense to all of us who live in this country. So for example, COVID-19. So when it hit, jobs were non-existent. Loads of people lost jobs. They had no income because everybody made it redundant. I'm talking about this particularly in Sri Lanka. So if they were purely dependent on that job they were doing, they are doing. Even the auto drivers, three-wheel drivers couldn't go to work because of restrictions. So what happened to those people who were professionals, who were outside the country? Their lifeline still went, was still existed. So that's a really good awakening call for us to understand that is not any different to a group of mobs coming and destroying our shops. Shops are closed, no income, but we will still survive. So the root, what we need to look into in terms of our entire community to move forward are three. Number one, education, undoubtedly. Dr. Rice made a point about why Tamil community is the one who spend the most money, resources and time on educating their children. Because they know the survival is in it. So education, of course. The second one is skill jobs, skills. You need to go for skill. When people hire you, it's no good you saying, okay, I'm an accountant. They'll ask you, okay, how many years experience do you have? Are you a chartered accountant? Who do you work for? Show me your profile. Okay? Because everybody, this is something very, very common in our community. Want to become a doctor? I want to become a doctor. My children want to become a doctor. But being a doctor is just a certificate. I always say to my juniors, only after you finish your doctorate, you become a doctor over a period of time. It's just a name. You know nothing when you come out of medical school. So I cannot get a decent job with a decent wage just by having a title as doctor. I need to show where I have trained, what I have trained on, how good my track record is, and who would vouch for my experience and skill and delivery. So skill development. So we need to push every single youngster who come out of school to develop skills. The third one, influence. Influence doesn't mean you are making influence on the community or the society. The influence you will create, that you can make pathway for your younger generation. So that's the sacrifice you are doing. Either you are within the country or outside the country. You are making pathway for these people who are from your own community. A lot of people think, as you know, in the past, It's about my survival, my family, my children. They become rich or they become educated, they become influential, then I'm secure. In fact, to a point that I don't want somebody else to get to that level because I get their status in the society. That was all fine when we did not have a flashback from rioters and security became a threat. Now, in every single person, survival is part and fully dependent on your community's survival. We should know it now. If we don't know that now, we will never know that. So it is important my neighbor is secure to make sure I'm secure. To make my neighbor secure, I need to make sure his neighbor is secure. We can talk about both ways, economical ways and physical security ways. So it's very important, not only from Maunala perspective, that we make sure all the younger generation, especially the ones who are underprivileged, get the education and the skill to excel in terms of making way for the security, social, economic, and physical security of us, my children and my family, who live in Sri Lanka, if I have, to make sure that the entire survival of that community is secure. It's very important. While we do that, it's also important to make sure the rest of the Muslim community in Sri Lanka is secure. So it's time for us to think forward from being me, myself, to us. Extremely, extremely important. There were a few examples I was going to bring as a trend which Office of Human Rights Council in Geneva has figured out as a trend. So there is a trend setting for genocide. You must all know what the genocide was, what happened to Jews in 1947, right? There's always a pattern before a genocide, okay? There are 10 to 11 steps where you can see, if you go back to 10 genocides which happened in the world for the last 200 years, there are 10 to 11 steps, depending on which it happened, that always took this path of before a genocide. Okay? So you can figure out, if you look at the events which happened in Sri Lanka, it ticked at least 8 to 9 of those points of genocide before it becomes a genocide. It's called the pathway to genocide. So the point I'm trying to make here is that we should not wait until the event happens and we become helpless and then cornered. Okay? This is not going to be, we don't want to let it become another Rohingya scenario. We do not want it. So for that reason, we have got two responsibilities. First responsibility is to make sure our community is progressive, educated, skilled, and secure. The second is also true, and as important as the first one, is that our neighboring communities, we are mainly, we are talking about Maunala, we are talking about Sinhalese communities, is cohesive to us. We have relationship, a good relationship with the Sinhalese community, and they do feel that we, number one, look out for each other, not just us and the Sinhalese community, and also we are working in the mutual benefit to everybody. That's why you must have seen there were some clips from the videos we showed before. It shows that we have helped Sinhalese schools. So just to give, just moving forward from my title of the speech, because the restriction with time, we in MAB, we have actually dedicated 20% of our income, 1/5 of our income towards the non-Muslim community. 80% is spent on our community, and 20% is spent on the communities of the neighboring villages. I don't have to explain to you how important that is. We don't get £1 million turnover in MAB to spend at least, I don't know, 200,000 on the Sinhalese community. We don't have that much of money. However, from what we have, we strategically choose which project to help for which part of non-Muslim community, because it will create a ripple effect in terms of reputation. Unfortunately, I have to say, we do it more for reputation of Muslims rather than actual physical benefit comes from it, purely because it's a matter of safeguarding our community. On that basis, obviously you're going to hear from the finance reports that how our funding is distributed. Okay? So the funds which come to MAB is not utilized for office work. We do not charge a penny from the money you give to us to maintain MAB. This is something very unique about MAB. In all of the other charities, you can have 5, 10, 15, up to 25% of income for overheads and office expenses and things like that. Some of the trustees do get paid for their travel. In MAB, we don't take a penny out of your money. Every single penny goes to the end user. Anything we run, as Brother Zamri said, that even sponsoring this event is by the EXCO, Executive Committee. We didn't take a penny from the money you give it to us. That's why his plea on whatever you guys can contribute, is contribute. The reason is that we believe every penny which you put here to serve our community back home here need to reach them. On that note, I'm going to conclude my speech and then we're going to move on because we are running very late. And for brothers and sisters, I just need you to go home with just 2 notes, thinking about, when you're thinking about MAB. Number 1, think about what we have achieved for the last 12 years is not our achievement, it's your achievement. We would not have done any of this without your support. And it's not dependent on whether you give £5 or £50. It's about your part of it. That's very, very important. Very important for you to know. This achievement is not us, it's you. And more to come. The second one is that to better our lives, we have come to this country. Okay? Alhamdulillah, we are secure so far. We don't know what happens in the future. We are financially secure, economically secure. The most important thing is socially secure. But our community in Sri Lanka is not. They may be financially secure for a period, but they are never socially secure. So to make sure you do whatever you can do to secure them socially, you need to, number 1, to make them economically independent, as I talked to you before. The second thing is to develop the reputation that Muslims are inclusive. We are inclusive. And we interact with the rest of the community, not just Muslims. And then we extend our arm to the non-Muslims. Remember, every single Sahaba was a non-Muslim first. So if you are even thinking about spreading Islam, the starting point is not just visiting them with calling to Islam, to show them inclusiveness and support. And it's easy for us to do in Maunal, because we are the largest, one of the largest Muslim villages, towns, and we have got very dependent non-Muslim villages around us. This is the best way and the easiest thing to do for a group of Muslims in Sri Lanka. But that needs your support, that needs your financial support, that needs your support physically and mentally, and the moral encouragement you give. The most importantly, it needs your dua. So on that note, I'm going to conclude my speech, as next part is very important with regards to the finances. We're going to quickly run through the finances, and then we're going to go to the questions if you may have. We're just trying to finish it in the next 15 minutes. Please be patient just for 15 minutes more. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.